next up we have a quick keynote presentation that's going to borrow examples from the Chinese market on how big corporations are constantly innovating. So without further ado, please welcome Bessie Lee, the founder and CEO of Withinlink. Applause, please.
Thank you. Can I have my presentation, the first page? There you go. Okay. Are you a sheep? You'll find out soon why I titled my presentation this way. But before that, if I ask you, all of you, to draw a house, you got a piece of paper and a pen with you, so start drawing a house. So you got this demand or this request, draw a house. And I believe that most of you, the house that you'll be drawing or you've already drawn on your piece of paper will look something like this. I've done this trick a few times and it worked every time. Every time, everybody's house looks something similar to this. But I always thought it's very funny because in Asia Pacific, I think most of us don't even live in a house that doesn't look even anything close to this house. I think most of us live in apartment blocks. So why, when we were asked to draw a house, we will come up with a house that's similar to something like this, but that we don't actually live in? I tell you why. Because most of us, when we go to school, when we start drawing, this is what the house that the teacher will be drawing on the blackboard, and it will ask us to follow. So most of us in Asia Pacific, our house looks something like this, not the house that we actually live in. So in other words, you and me, we're all sheep because we just follow what we were told before and we never actually question. And now with the digital age, we thought information, overflow. We've got so much information that we can access to. We should know better. We should know better than our parents. So our house should look something different, right? But unfortunately, we're just following the herd in the old times, in our parents' time, offline. But now we're just following the herd online, in the digital age. So a question for ourselves and for you as well. Have you ever been a black sheep in your herd? And I'm sure that most of you are, CXOs or managing directors or general managers or directors of a team. What do you do when you have a black sheep in your team? What do you do with that person? Or not one person, maybe a few people. What do you do with that person? Do you embrace the different ideas that he or she comes up with? Or you just find this person very difficult to manage because he's so unconventional? But in an organization, it's a lot easier to get fired for being unconventional than being unimaginative. You won't fire your staff because the staff don't come to you with new ideas. If he just follow the standard operating procedure and just do his or her job well every day, he can keep his or her job. But if you have someone who's very different, who comes to you with idea that you've never done before, and then was against everything that you believe in, against the conventional wisdom, what do you do with this person? Mark Twain has this interesting quote. He said, whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. So maybe have a self-reflection now. Are you following what everybody else is doing in your industry? I'm talking about business, right? So you listen to what your competitors are doing. You listen to other companies in other industries are doing. Are you just following what others are doing? Founders of these interesting and innovative Chinese companies, they chose not to follow the other sheep in their herd. They are the black sheep in their herd. They created these companies not because they have experience in that field. No, most of them don't actually have any experience in the industry that they are in right now. So if you look at Lei Jun, the founder of Xiaomi is going listed in Hong Kong Stock Exchange next month. He has never built any or manufacture any mobile handsets. But yet he has come up with the most innovative mobile handsets ecosystems that still unique to this day. No other mobile handsets in the world actually use the same open source crowd wisdom system. The lady who found Mobike, she's actually a journalist before she found Mobike. She's not some technician or engineer or coder. She doesn't know anything about coding. She's a journalist. So she never had any experience in this field. But yet she came up with the most exciting, sexy, share economy business model in the recent years. So these people, they're curious. They created these businesses because they're curious about the unknown. And they wanted to do something about that unknown. So we're actually in a very exciting time that there's so much unknown in front of us. But I think most of us are actually quite fearful of the unknown. That's uncertainty, so I don't want to go anywhere near it. Rather, we follow the herd. We just want to be another sheep in the crowd because it's much safer. This quote, unknown customer, unstated need. That's the cutting edge of the innovation. This whole conference is about innovative thinking, it's about breakthrough thinking, it's about innovation. So I'm sure that the reason why you're in this session is you wanted to know, what other people are doing in terms of embracing innovation. But I think you have a question to ask yourself. Are you happy to embrace the uncertainty? Or are you rather stay on the safe side and you don't want to pursue something that you don't know? Is innovation unique to startup? We have so many, in this conference, we have so many very exciting, very sexy startups, which I congratulate you. I mean, they're not far behind from the startups I'm seeing in China. So this is a great age, and you got the entire Singaporean government supporting. So it's a fantastic market for startups to be operating in. But for you, if you're working in a big corporate, is innovation unique to startup? I like to play this speech I came across on TED Talk. This next video, he's an investor. He has invested in many, many startups. So he also asked this question to himself: is innovation unique to startup? That's something that big corporate cannot replicate? So this is an extract of a full TED Talk he did. So if you're interested, you can go on TED Talk to find a full speech. But I'd like to show you this video, the most critical message of this TED Talk.
So I tried to look very carefully at these 5 factors across many companies. And I looked across all 100 Idea Lab companies and 100 non-Idea Lab companies to try and come up with something scientific about it. So first, on these Idea Lab companies, the top 5 companies, CitySearch, Cars Direct, GoTo, NetZero, Tickets.com, those all became billion-dollar successes. And the 5 companies on the bottom, Z.com, Insider Pages, MyLife, Desktop Factory, PeopleLink, we all had high hopes for, but didn't succeed. So I tried to rank across all of those attributes how I felt those companies scored on each of those dimensions. And then for non-Idea Lab companies, I looked at wild successes like Airbnb and Instagram and Uber and YouTube and LinkedIn, and some failures: Webvan, Cosmo, Pets.com, Flues, and Friendster. The bottom companies had intense funding. They even had business models in some cases, but they didn't succeed. I tried to look at what factors actually counted the most for success and failure across all of these companies, and the results really surprised me. The number one thing was timing. Timing accounted for 42% of the difference between success and failure. Team and execution came in second, and the idea, the differentiability of the idea, the unique idea, that actually came in third. Now, this isn't absolutely definitive. It's not to say that the idea isn't important, but it very much surprised me that the idea wasn't the most important thing. Sometimes it mattered more when it was actually timed. The last 2, business model and funding, made sense to me, actually. I think business model makes sense to be that low because you can start out without a business model and then add one later if your customers are demanding what you're creating. And funding, I think as well. If you're underfunded at first, but you're gaining traction, especially in today's age, it's very, very easy to get in.
So of the 5 factors, the most critical is timing, and the second is team. So none of this is unique to startup. team, if you're working in a big corporate, you probably have the best talent in your market, in your sector. You probably have more talent than any of the startup can dream of. So you've got actually, these two critical elements that sit in your organization, but you just haven't actually leveraged that. And what's missing from the big corporate is probably this culture of allowing 0 to 1 kind of trial and error spirit in your organization. If you're a director, if you're a general manager, if you're a managing director, are you allowing your team to do a little experiment, and would you help them embrace failure if they didn't make it a success? Or they would just get punished because they didn't create a success with a little experiment, that opportunity you gave him. And I know a lot of the big corporates, including this conference, they will participate in a conference like this by sponsoring competition, the startup competition, and they will give away award money. I think this is a brilliant move by big corporate to encourage startup, to incentivize startup. But let me ask you, if you are one of those corporate that sponsor the startup competition, what do you do with the winning startups after you presented this check to them? What do you do with them? At most, the big corporates give away the winning checks to the winning team, and at most they will just make a few introductions to their internal unit, and that's about it. But you're so close to the winning team, but you actually are not leveraging this passion and this commitment this winning team is happy to bring forward to your organization. So my advice, before I started Withinlink, my own investment firm, I was at WPP. I head up WPP China for 4 years, and before that also WPP, altogether 27 years in WPP. And I left WPP end of April last year to focus on Withinlink, started my own business, and now I'm also helping startup. So I guess I've seen enough from both worlds to be able to come up with this list of advice to people, especially people in big corporate. How do you embrace innovation? My advice, find out one critical challenge that your organization is facing. That is your timing, because that challenge must be a challenge that you're facing now. So find that challenge and assemble a team with true believers of innovation. And if you choose to partner with startup externally, put that team from your organization, put that together with the startup team. And most important thing is empower this team. Best to have that team report directly to the CEO or CXO, anyone who has that decision-making authority, who can make things happen for this team. Remove the silos for them. Any organizations will have silos. Silos are human nature. But if you want this small team to succeed, you want to make sure that you minimize the silos as much as possible. Give them some funding to start, but doesn't require a whole lot, because you already have a lot of resources sitting in your organization. So give them some funding to start. But probably more important than funding is to design an incentive scheme that if one day you decide to spin off this little experiment team because of the success they have created, the founding members of this team will own the equity of that newly spin-off entities. So created it that way so that people who wanted to do something different within your organization find a destination and they can lend their passion. This is the list of advice I came up with. And I wanted to tell you that this list, coincidentally, is also the approach that Tencent has used to come up with Wechat. 2010, Tencent actually was on a decline. They didn't have a sound mobile product. So Pony Ma, the founder and CEO of Tencent, realized the crisis that he's in. So he turned internally to all his product team and said, we need a mobile product. So he solicited internal proposals. So there are 3 teams within Tencent Group, one in Shenzhen, one in Guangzhou, one in Chengdu, put forward the proposal to Pony Ma. And Pony Ma, after reviewing 3 proposals, realized the one from Guangzhou was the most promising one. So internally, he put together a very small team, and that team reported directly to him. He worked with that team days and nights to make this product from paper to reality. And that product is the WeChat that we know about today. So a year later, he launched WeChat, and the rest of the WeChat's history you can read off the press. So it is a huge success. So if you're interested in the more details of this case studies, this is a case I put together by two university professors. So this is actually coincidentally the approach that Tencent has used to come up with a brilliant product and solutions in the market. So hopefully something I said today, you resonate, and you wanted to take it back to your organization and maybe discuss it internally with your team, how you can take on some of the advice that I share with you on board and start embracing innovation. But before you do that, I would like to point you to 5 marketing trends that you wanted to keep it in the back of your head when you're reviewing what you need to do for your organization. The first 2 are about the form of communication, visual and video. This generation now and the generation in the future are all going to be visual and video centric. So if you're doing most of your marketing work today very much text based, you want it to change and you want it to change it quickly. Artificial intelligence, robotic, use a lot of those data that you sit on yourself or partner with data providers. Blockchain is already very widely talked about subject. I do believe that one day if someone has come up with a solution to give the users of any platform all of a sudden the right to their own data, and they have their own terms and conditions for app developers or web developers or brands to follow if you want them to use your platform, that's the day that most of us might be screwed, okay? But last but not least is voice assistant. I think before blockchain will disrupt our industry, I think voice would probably do that even quicker. Voice assistant is going to come to our life much quicker, much faster than you and I expected. I would like to close this presentation with a cute little video from Japan, just to show you that very soon the voice assistant might be the good friend to our consumer. Not the brand, not big company, but the voice assistant. So let me show you this video.
朝ですよ。起きてください。ねえ、起きてってば。おはよう。
おはよう。
あ、今日雨が降るかもしれないから傘持って行って。急がないと遅刻しちゃうよ。
行ってきます。
行ってらっしゃい。気をつけてね。
状況ページ、商品のラインナップについての
誰かが待ってるっていいもんだな。さっき思ったんだ、帰ってくるとき。おやすみ。
おやすみなさい。
Sad, I know, but voice system is going to come to you and me quicker than we thought. Thank you very much.